Gateway Board of School Directors, regular board meeting, Tuesday, September 19th, 2017. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bonnie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Byrne.
Present.
Is Mrs. Cerrucci on? Mrs. Cerrucci?
I'm here.
Okay. Mr. Lapsevich?
Here.
Mr. Nola?
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Here.
Mr. Ritter?
Here.
Mr. Stubenbort?
Here.
Mrs. Warning?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here. Comments from residents on agenda items. Anybody wish to address the school board on agenda items?
No one's called in advance.
Section A, minutes of the previous meeting. Anybody like to make a motion to?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ritter, second by Mr. Nola. Questions or comments? We have a roll call vote.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. Nola?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mr. Stubenbort?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne?
Aye.
Motion carries. Section A, Section B, bills, financial reports, Mr. Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Section B, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approve Sections B1 list of bills for the month of September 2017 and B2 monthly financial statements for the month of August 2017 as listed in Section B of the Tuesday, September 19th, 2017 regular board meeting.
So moved. Moved by Mr. Nola, second by Mr. Stubenfort. Questions or comments? Section B. Seeing none, roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell? Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mr. Stubenbort?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne? Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Motion carries. Section C. We have nothing previously tabled.
Nothing.
Section D, personnel agenda, Ms. Crum.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accept and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 6 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, September 19th.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Stubenfort, second by Mr. Nola. Question, comments on Section D?
I have a question. I'm just a little curious why there's a few individuals here who are requesting leave and that date has already passed.
Because we get the paper, it has to do with the timing of the board meeting. We get the paperwork in, but then you don't vote until now. So we couldn't vote on it until then. We actually do get the paperwork in advance.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Nola?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mr. Stubenbort?
Aye for all except for under E, number 4, sorry, tenure. I will abstain from Madison Castagnero and Andrew Estock.
Mrs. Warning? Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Section E, conferences and conventions. Trump?
We're going to start shaky.
Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes the following conferences and conventions as listed in Section E. We have a conference for Matt Stakunis Manufacturing Day, October 26th and 27th, and also 4 of our foreign language teachers will be attending the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Language Conference.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. O'Donnell, second by Mr. Nola. Questions or comments on Section
This is in
E?
the budget. Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions or comments? We have a roll call.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mr. Stubenbort?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. Nola?
Aye. Motion carries. Section F, administrative resolutions, short.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We have a number of items on Section F that I'm going to be deferring to Dr. Rossi and Mr. Schott, so we can start off with item number 1, Dr. Rossi.
Item number 1, final approval of revised policy 203, communicable diseases and immunizations, that was placed on public display beginning August 15, 2017. Number 2, we have an overnight excursion for the Gateway High School Marching Band, President's Day in Alexandria, Virginia, and Washington, D.C.
Item number 3, Dr. Chaky.
Item number 3, we have the alternative education program agreements between the Gateway School District and the AIU Community School East.
Item number 4, I will take. This is a special education settlement agreement that has been previously discussed with the board. Terms and conditions have been negotiated. Item number 5, and we'll continue through a number of items for Mr. Schott.
Approval of the Title I federal funds regulations for the 17-18 fiscal year as depicted. Item number 6 is the acceptance, approval, and adoption of the management comments and corrective action plan contained in the management reply form and in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Auditor General Performance Audit Report for the period July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2015, and that is depicted in Exhibit D.
One question on that item. Mr. President, you and the superintendent attended a conference where you reviewed that, correct?
What's that?
I said you and the superintendent attended a conference regarding the audit management letter and the audit, and you were fine with it?
That was in-house here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right. Okay, that's it.
Item number 7 is the annual approval of the school bus drivers and monitors for the 2017-18 fiscal year, and that is depicted in Exhibit E. Item number 8 is the approval of Title IV Part A, Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant Federal Funds preliminary allocation amount for the 17-18 fiscal year in the amount of $16,668. Item number 9 is the approval of a grant of perpetual easement and right-of-way and approval of a grant of license and right-of-way for parcel number 745-N-365 between the district and the Borough of Pitcairn for a flood control project as depicted in Exhibit F. Item number 10 is approval of submission of petition to amend zoning district map along with all required supplemental information and payment of the required rezoning and review fees to the municipality of Monroeville for the Gateway Middle School property. There's total payment of fees is an amount of $3,802.50, and all those documents are depicted in Exhibit G.
Question, comments?
Comment on the last one. Mr. Short, you'll submit a request to the borough to abate the $3,850.
That is correct, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
I do, we want to do motion second first.
Did we already do that? Motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Stewart, second by Mr. Nola. Questions, comments?
I just had a comment about number 10. There was a newspaper article that says Gateway looking to sell middle school. And I just want to address that. I know that probably got a lot of hits for a local reporter, but it's inaccurate and I just don't think it's a good title for the story. So I just wanted to kind of shed light on this. When I went to Gateway in 2008, we were talking about possibly closing the school. When I graduated, we had 370 people in my class. We're now under 300 people graduating per year. The high school used to hold classes as big as 700 and more. So I just want people to understand this is simply giving future boards options. There's no way in dark of night we can just say, okay, we're going to close the school. There are so many steps and processes in place that have to go through. So this is simply to give Gateway School Board currently and future boards the best opportunity if they choose to do anything with that land. Before a school is closed, it has to be advertised. There has to be a 30-day display. Then there's a public hearing, a 90-day discussion period. So there's no way the school will be closed this year. It would be next to impossible to even close it for next year. So I just want everyone to know that and understand that this does not mean a school is closing. It's not imminent. This is something that, like I said, has been going on since at least 2008. So I just want mass hysteria to kind of stop. I think it's definitely an option that we have been looking at, and that previous boards have been looking at. But I just don't like the title Gateway Selling Middle School because we're voting to move something to commercial property. So I do want to thank Steve for really getting the ball moving on this. And if you guys remember, last January we had a meeting where people actually came in and gave us different options. So I also want to get out there that the Gateway School Board currently is completely opposed to closing an elementary school. That was reiterated many times. Completely opposed to doing 7th through 12th grade up at the high school. That was said on social media after this article was published. So I just want to get the facts out there that those ideas were shot down completely. If anything, we'd be looking at elementary schools, K through 5, 6, 7, 8 building, or possibly building new if the sale was big enough, if that happens down the future. But there's no 7 through 12 plan. There's no closing of elementary schools. I just want to get the facts out.
And I concur with Mr. Stubenboard that we've had many discussions as a board as a whole and also previous boards as to the age and condition of some of our buildings, especially the two at Gateway Middle School and Mossad Middle School right here. As we have maintained, and I believe I was on the record back in June as stating that simply we are exploring options at this point. It's part of the process. At the end of the day, we may decide that keeping that property is within the best interest of the school district and the taxpayer. So at this point, we're merely following the procedures in order to rezone. So I want the public to understand that there's been no decision made at this point.
Absolutely, and piggybacking off of that, it's prudent for school boards to look at all options on the table. You know, if we weren't looking at the future and having a 5-year and a 10-year plan, we should be, criticized at that point in time. But the fact that the school board is looking at the current status of the district and where we will be 5-10 years from now is prudent, and it's to be expected when you're dealing with $70 million of taxpayer dollars. So.
Any other questions or comments? Section G, E, F. All of them, all of them. Seeing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Ritter. Aye. Mr. Stubenboard.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
She might be gone.
Okay.
Yeah, she did announce that if the signal goes, not to call her back. So.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. Nola.
I would like to vote aye to all except for number 4, please. I'll vote no.
And Mr. O'Donnell.
Let me look at number 4.
Is that 4?
Aye.
Steve. Mr. O'Donnell.
He said aye.
Aye. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Section G, resolutions presented by board members. Do we have any resolutions from board members this evening? Comments from residents on non-agenda items. Does anybody wish to address the school board at this time on any item? Start with the superintendent's report. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. First off, I would like to thank the entire staff, student body, administrative team, and the school board for a wonderful, excellent start to the 17-18 school year. It's just been truly amazing, and I referenced this within my board reports over the last couple of weeks when walking through the buildings and seeing the energy level of not only the students and the staff, but the principals and our central office team. I know Dr. Chakey and Dr. Rossi, I almost combined the two names there into one, have been out and about doing learning walks and truly having an impact, direct impact immediately upon our staff with the Danielson framework and the students with the new curriculum materials as well. So we're excited, we're up and running. We've had some communications between the board members recently, but I fully expect that it's going to be a wonderful year. Received some wonderful data about the ACT scores increasing. over all of the assessed areas, so that will be released to the public soon. Also, I had a meeting down at the Allegheny Intermediate Unit today, and I'm sure it's been publicized in the local papers and on the media, the news stations. Pennsylvania has formally, or I should say the federal government has formally adopted Pennsylvania's model of the ESSA plan. A number of differences, changes happening within the accountability measures for schools. And we may hold a special meeting. In fact, we will hold a special meeting to review the new accountability plans that come with the new ESSA plan. So it was probably a 3 to 4 hour meeting with all the superintendents from the AIU today, and we learned a lot, and it's our job to pass that information on to our stakeholders. That's all for tonight.
Thank you. Dr. Chaky. Mr. Rossi.
Nothing further.
Mr. Shutt.
Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Queller.
Just want to remind everybody that we are using Kelly Educational Services for our substitute staffing for teachers, paras, and secretaries, so we have contact information on the website for them. They will also be at each of the open houses, especially in the elementary and the middle school buildings, with a table to answer any questions that anyone has about Kelly Services, or if you'd like to ask questions about employment, they'll be available to answer that for you.
Thank you. Mr. Ritter.
I'm looking forward to Steve's report about all the wonderful things that have gone on in the past couple weeks here and all the upgrades. So I'm looking forward to that, but myself, no report.
Thank you. Ms. Byrne.
Nothing further.
Mr. Stubenport.
Mary Beth had sent me an email and asked that I just briefly give everyone an update on the school police department's budget from last year. So I did just want to pull that up and go over that. Overall, the school police came under budget, just shy of $65,000 under budget. That included all training, that included all uniforms, everything else. I also wanted to clarify, because I did hear a rumor going around, if an officer starts here and let's say they leave after a few weeks, because that has happened in certain circumstances, it is in the contract where they pay for everything. So we're getting the uniforms back and we're recouping all of that cost. I just wanted to make sure that was out there. But I did just want to say thank you to Mrs. Crump for making sure she kept her thumb on that, along with Paul Schott, and then to Tim Skoog and Brian Key as well. So just wanted to give that update on behalf of Mary Beth. Next, I just wanted to thank everyone again for the human trafficking event last evening. Thank you to George and Val for coming, along with Guy. We had several teachers there, several other building principals there as well, about just shy of about 50 community members as well. So I wanted to again thank Forbes Hospital, Dr. Mark Rubino, for setting me up with Janie Miller, who's the Director of Emergency and Trauma Services, and Linda Ritchie, who's the sexual assault nurse over at Forbes. They put on a great presentation about human trafficking in the area, and I think everyone that was there would agree it was pretty eye-opening, and a lot of good information, a lot of scary information that is real and it's happening in this area. The second half of last night's presentation, I want to thank the Pennsylvania State Police, in particular Trooper Melinda and Trooper, one of our own, Robin Mungo, Gateway graduate, for presenting on social media safety. The parents I know especially appreciated that, and there's a lot more apps and social media out there that I don't even know about, so that was a pretty good presentation. Also, lastly for that event, I wanted to thank Tracy Riccardi and Girl Scouts Troop 50360 from North American Martyrs for providing free daycare to anyone that brought their children because the material was not suitable for children. Also talked with one of the high school principals, and looks like they're looking to piggyback on that idea to offer free babysitting services during open house to allow more parents to come. So I think that's a great idea as well. And then everyone from the school board for allowing the event to take place at the auditorium. Thank you for that. Miko did a great job with setting everyone up with the technology piece. So just everyone that helped yesterday come to fruition, thank you. I wanted to send a special shout out to Emily Levine, who's one of the teachers over at Cleveland Stewart Elementary, for setting up the Bucks Battle Bullying. So it's a pirate game tomorrow where the teachers and their family will be going. And if any board members are interested, there are still several seats available. If you want to go to tomorrow's game, get to go on the field beforehand as well. But some of the proceeds will go towards battling bullying. And then lastly, the football, the band, the cheerleaders, the community just showing up for these games is incredible. I remember last year making comments of, oh my goodness, there's really no one in the stands. And this year it's great to be able to look down or look up at the stands and see a lot of people, a lot of support from the community. It does help when you're 3-0. But seeing the band get everyone into it, the student section's been doing a great job dressing up in their little designated outfits each and every week. So just great job to everyone there. Hopefully continue doing well. And hopefully everyone continues being safe there as well. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nola.
Yeah, just real quick, I know it's the beginning of the school year and everything seems to just be going so smoothly. I just want to commend everybody on all the effort that they're putting in. And I'm looking forward to some new artwork for the beginning of the year. I know classes are just getting underway, but we need to get some new artwork.
October.
And I just want to say a special thank you to my wife. It's our 30th anniversary today. And thanks for sticking around with me.
I thought 4 years was bad.
And that's it.
Thank you, Neil. Mr. Lapsevich.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Just one thing. My thoughts and prayers are out for recovery to one of my best friends and a great basketball coach, Mitch Adams, which is in the hospital right now. I wish him nothing but the best. Thank you.
All right, Steve.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. President. First of all, before I get into, and it's going to be a somewhat lengthy report, I want to note to the board that our maintenance crew undertook any number of major projects this year. Bob Brown heading it up, and they did a fantastic job. And I appreciate that. I know he does, and I think everybody on the board does. So I wanted to note that. I'm going to walk through the capital projects tracker. The roof replacements have been completed. And I'm going to give you a relatively close number, bottom line. The air conditioning in the all-purpose rooms at both the elementary schools have been completed. They both came in under budget. The switchgear and distribution panels have been replaced. They came in under budget. The 7 rooftop HVAC, so they're heating and air conditioning units at Ramsey have been installed after the new roof was put on, and my understanding is they're working quite well. All the retro commissioning has been completed, and that, by the way, is a huge, huge undertaking, and that's been done, and it came in substantially under budget. The interior lighting has not yet begun. I'll comment on that a little bit later. The exterior lighting has been completed, save for 3 exterior lights at Ramsey and the 2 entrance poles at Ramsey. The exterior lights will probably be done, the 3 of them this week. The entrance poles will be completely replaced. They've already been purchased. Those will be removed, new holes dug, cement poured, the new poles put in, the electrical tie-ins done relatively soon. Water conservation, we have been purchasing the items for water conservation. We've not yet started to install them. We'll be doing that relatively soon. That is, we bought the spigots and the faucets and the urinals and those kinds of things. And that appears to be coming in under budget as well. The envelopes work for the auxiliary gym is budgeted at 25. It's been completed. It came in under budget. The water conservation consultant and the lighting consultant, as I reported before, we did not need. The staff support, which was helpful to Bob this year, we budgeted at $41,000, but we only spent about $4,365.26 to date, and we don't expect any significant additional expenditures there. The HVAC control systems are in process. It was a large line item for us, $700,000. To date, we've spent about $150,000 of that. And we expect to be under that budget, but we don't have a final number until we complete the job. The restroom remodels that Bill added at the very end of our our work, hopefully will be started. And needed. Hopefully will be
Thank you, I was
started.
just about to address that.
Hopefully will be started soon.
1958.
We expect
Been a long
we expect the total budget now to run approximately, so we budgeted $3,819,000. We think we're going to run somewhere around $3,150,000, exclusive of the items that Mr. Schott loaded on the capital budget. And I'm not going to go through all of those. However, I want to point out a couple of them that I think you'd be interested in. The coffee shop at the high school is well underway. It will be ready for
Open house.
on the 27th. Again, this has been done by in-house crew, and it's going to look great. It's going to look absolutely awesome. The sports complex painting and swimming pool, if you haven't seen that, that's been done, and again, it looks just tremendous. I want to mention, too, that the press box windows were replaced. That came in about $8,000 under budget, and the sports complex, the swimming pool facility, came in about $9,000 under budget. And then, of course, we finished the sports complex gym floor, and I suspect probably most everybody has seen that. And Bill's idea to stain it a different color was great, and we got press coverage on it, and it looks tremendous. Throughout the whole of this process, George and Valerie have been part of the team. Scotty has, Bill has. We meet regularly. This is all done by us along with Bob Brown. Now, on September 13th, we convened a lengthy meeting, 4-hour meeting of the team to begin talking about what it is we want to do next year. So we're sort of trying to line up projects now so that we can apprise the board, get the proper authorizations, and execute the contracts in the wintertime so they're ready to go in the summer. First of all, the inside lighting I want to mention will begin, we think, on or around October 1st. That will take some time. Remember, that's 7,000 fixtures. We will work through it school by school by school, starting with the elementaries and then moving on into the high school. Much of this work could be done in the evening after school and on the weekends. Bob is lining up the teams to do that.
2 weeks for that, Bob?
What, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. We're going to put some lettering up as home of the Gateway Gators at the press box. And I want to move down now to probably the larger items. Now, we're going to be coming to the board and asking the board to approve contracts for tree, shrub, flower, mulch, hillside seeding to an outside firm. We don't have the capacity to do that at this point. And we've asked Mary Beth and Bob to go out and do diagrams of every facility in advance of going out for a bid. And those diagrams will identify every area that we want to be treated, all the trees that we want to be trimmed up. I know it's not exciting work, but it's important work to keep the campuses of the district looking good. And as Scott says, we're for sale all the time. So we'll be bringing that plan to you once it's completed, and then we'll bid it, and then we'll ask for the board's approval once that bid comes in. We are also going to ask the board to consider an annual or biannual, every 2 years, biannual?
Twice a year.
No, biannual would be what, twice a year? So what's? That's right. Every 2 years would be what? Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Okay. We're going to get in contact with the folks that did the retro commissioning. You all know what retro commissioning is because we went through this and we had a tour of it. We're going to ask them to do this every year, every 2 years, based upon their recommendation, the cost would be substantially below we expect what it costs this year. The upside is that the equipment will run better, more efficiently, last longer. So when we get an estimate, we'll be bringing that forward. We've identified 5 or 6 areas here that we want to put contracts in place so we don't have to bring this up every year to the board. These are things that have to be done on a regular basis, and so that's why I'm raising this. We are looking for a biannual window contract to be signed, if we can, maybe 2 or 3 years out, to clean the exterior, the windows. There are 1,000 or more windows. This is throughout the district on every building. We want a standing contract for window replacement. When windows are broken, the seals go, they're cracked, whatever. I don't feel we need to come back to the board every time, so we're going to ask the board to contract with a firm to do that, and we're going to do the same thing with opening up and putting to bed the fields, the athletic fields. Next, so those 5 or 6 contracts will be bid, developed, and brought before this board for consideration. Again, these are things that we want to just move off of the table, get them done so we don't have to constantly be outbidding them and trying to figure out what's it. But it'll be up to the board. The committee would like to study Ramsey Evergreen and University Park. We'd like to study the entranceways to see if we can't provide a more accommodating and environmentally pleasing, aesthetically and pleasing entrance to our buildings. Some of these buildings, as you know, are 60 years old, 50 years old. I think the newest is Ramsey, and that was 1970. So it's pushing 47 years old. So we will be asking the board to allow us to go forward with a contract with the architect to develop drawings to be presented to the board once they're done. We're also asking, this was brought up by Bob Brown, has been mentioned, I think, by the President as well. We'd like to get some drawings to create a new entranceway through the tech ed department, the classrooms, the back by the docks. We have a lot of people that come in and out of there on a regular basis. It's used quite frequently. And it's also where our garbage is put out, and it just doesn't look real attractive for the district. So again, we're going to ask the board for permission to go forward and get some drawings on creating a more attractive entranceway there. We are also going to come to the board and ask for permission to engage a structural engineer for the football bleachers and the retaining wall. That wall's been up for quite some time, and it was thought prudent to look at it and determine if any course of action needs to be undertaken. We are also, I believe Scotty and Bob Brown will be going around the district, and we will be taking out a goodly number of the signs that lean right and left and are falling over and are rusty and so on and so forth, that are anything but attractive. Of course, we'll leave in the ones that have to be left in for handicap parking, and there are a couple of other exceptions that Bob noted and that Scott and Bob will work up, and I'm guessing just present it to the Buildings and Grounds Committee. And then finally, or 2 things. Finally, we're asking Bob to give us some numbers to fence in the dumpsters. Again, aesthetics, these are unattractive, so on and so forth. One other thing that I forgot to mention as well was that we have night vision photographs, now that all the exterior lights are up, of the dark spots that remain throughout our campuses. We had decided early on that we will replace the existing lights, which have made a good deal of difference. But there still are some spots out there that need to be illuminated. Scott and Bob Brown and probably Micah, and you, are you doing that too? Okay, and Valerie, we're going to be going around, looking at the night vision, going around at night, identifying the spots, and then bringing those the number of these are pole lights, that would be required to complete the lighting of proper lighting of our campuses. It's difficult to project a cost, but just sort of keep in mind, Bob tells me they could run a single pole anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000. So if you had 20 additional poles, you can do the math. Not a huge hit none of these things compared to what we are spending at this point in time, but still needs to be done. And then finally, we've asked Bob, and I think this is going to cost $50 or $55, to put in some spotlights to light up the horses, the ponies in our, Bob Reed. Yeah, and put them on a timer, because it's just, again, one of the more attractive elements of our district. Picks everything up, makes it look nicer. They'll go off at 12 or 1 o'clock or whenever Bob sets it. That pretty much ends my report. Valerie and George, is there anything that you guys want to add?
Just that you're doing a really good job. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you covered it all, thank you.
Okay.
So Steve, if I may ask a question, some of this needs to go into the media report that's going to come out. Do we have some film or some pictures or some interviews of some kids seeing the air conditioner for the first time, or the pool or the gym floor? I mean, something that
I don't know, but we could do that?
Yes, we had an article in the Post-Gazette concerning the gym floor. I believe Maiko has flown a drone over some of the new buildings with the roofs. So we do have a number of video pictures that we could put together. We have our first article for Craigoff Communications.
Could some of the students chip in some of their thoughts as well? It's
Absolutely.
nice to hear from the students, you know. Put something up on the front of the web page there. Student likes the paint-in pool, or something like, whatever it is, you know, just let's let the students get engaged with. This is their school. I'd like to hear from them.
Steve.
Yeah.
When he said that the buildings are for sale every day, I just don't want that to be misconstrued by the media. They are not actually physically for sale, but just that the appearance means a lot. And then the other thing, if you could just talk a little bit about the coffee shop. I know we talked about that previously, but really what the students are doing and how that's really good for the district.
The coffee shop, first of all, the existing coffee shop is pretty small, and it adjoins the library. So it's a little bit of a competition there. Be quiet, but let's talk and be friendly. And while it was a step forward, 4 teachers came forward, and Bill, tell me who they are, because they were the ideas behind this. One was your friend,
Andrew Estock.
Andrew Estock.
Megan Petruska, and
Miss Ruby.
Brooke Ruby.
And it was Miss Sampson, but she's out
Kara.
this year.
Yes,
Okay,
Kara
so
Sampson.
credit where credit is due, these guys came up with it. So this will be a dramatic increase in space. It's a whole classroom, completely repainted. The floor has been done. We took out the exterior wall and we put in windows, and Jack is doing an exterior paint job that sort of makes it look like a cafe. Our own team built the counters in the back under Bob's supervision, and I think they're there or ready to be installed over the next couple of days. They've been completed, and that will be a lengthy counter. Behind the counter will be the products for sale, so are the coffees and the drinks and the other items that the teachers and the team of young people that select will be there. Now, in addition to that, we made a pretty significant improvement, I think, in the entranceway of the main entranceway of the high school by installing, what do you want to call it, Bob, a police station?
Yeah, security.
Yeah. So it's less intrusive. It's all now completely wired in, or should be wired in soon, in terms of all of the cameras. And it has a capacity to go into the coffee shop and into the back area. So it's going to be a really good training program for disabled youngsters there. And depending upon the schedule, you know, it'll be open and available to board members, parents coming in, visitors to the school to go in and use it. It also has an area built in. Again, this is back to Bob and our own guys who did this. designed to sell gator gear, things of that sort. Bob, have I missed anything?
You covered it pretty well.
Okay, so it's going to be nice, and it's going to be available for open house. Again, Bob and his team made that happen. By the way, Bob and his team made the gym set that was here, donated around for a couple of years. They put it together over the summer in the back of Cleveland, not Cleveland Stewart, Evergreen. Looks great, and it was a big undertaking, and it did a tremendous job. So coffee shop should be in good shape. And any other questions?
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Steve. Good job. Thanks.
Thanks.
George, thank you, Bill. Thanks, Mr.
Scotty,
Brown.
one quick note. I just want to reiterate that we did have that event at the football game where Randy Robesti did a really nice job of bringing some old football players out to honor our past coach, Pete Annamarino. Pete Annamarino's family was there, so it was nice. Reed Jow's family was there. It was a really nice thing. So thanks to Randy for pulling all that together.
Yes. Thank you, John.
Thanks, buddy. Val?
Just a couple things. Mr. Brown, thank you to you and your staff for doing everything with these schools. When you walk into the schools now, it's like you're being welcomed into the schools, and it really looked good. Special thanks to our custodial staff, our maintenance staff. They have really gone above and beyond. I mean, everything that they were faced with this summer, they did complete everything. Bits and pieces still need done, but the major projects that were on, that they had to take on, they really did a fantastic job. So thank you very much. Congratulations to our football team. Right now they are, as Chad said, 3-0, playing Hampton this Friday. It's Community Day where Gateway Midget Football and I believe Pitcairn will be coming also with their football team and cheerleaders. They'll be announcing who they are. It's all bringing them up towards the ranks to get onto the big football field. So the game is Friday evening. One other thing. George and I were asked to take a bus ride to Connellsville with Mr. Ravesti to chaperone the students. Anybody that would like to try that as a chaperone, please be our guest. We learned more, how do I put it, rap music that I even knew what it was. But I have to say I was very proud at how our students were. They were very well respected. The Connellsville administration, their students, very proud to be a part of Gateway going there. So to our students, thank you, continue it. And when you go up through the main campus, up to the high school, I don't know if you've noticed yet the walkway, but our superintendent had put on the walkway, Gateway High School, with our 2 emblems, designating the awards that they have won. So it really makes a difference, and hopefully we will be getting them at the other schools. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. I'd just like to say my thoughts and prayers out to Mitch Adams, our former basketball coach, and he's over at UPMC East, but the family has asked that only family be there. So the best that we could do for Mitch is send our thoughts and prayers for him, his family, and friends. And with that, I'd look for a motion to adjourn. So moved. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
Nice.